Hi, in today's session, we're going to talk about manual planning in SAC. It's a continuation to my previous session of SAC version management and also having some forecast versions created using data actions. In today's session, we're going to look at inputting the values directly into the planning story, and that gets saved to the planning model. And also, we look at the concept of disaggregation after entering the plan value, cascading that or disaggregate the value to the base members. For example, I'm inputting the value at an hierarchy node level of product and then distributing that or disaggregate the total value to the base members based on certain um, types like equally or proportionally or something like that. And also we look at the distribution or disaggregation using planning panel that is available in SAC. We also going to look at the concept called data entry mode. There are three data entry modes in SAC: single entry, fluid, and mass update. So we're going to understand the difference between these three data entry modes in SAC. Cell locking is another important concept where you are trying to avoid any updates to that particular cell from the user inputs. So this can be very important in restricting the planners to update some combinations of the plan input. So we're going to look at this concept a little later. So I'm going to hold on or pause. Going to skip this topic for a while, and we'll cover at a later point of time. So going to go to the system and do these three or four different activities in SAC. Going to navigate to the story. This is a new story that I am in. I'm going to invoke a table, existing table, picking up my model. It's in sales plan. The models, get the model that is used for sessions. I can use a template and start using the template for everything and keep changing, but it's not a very highly format requirements I consider for this training session. So that's why every time I create a session, I do the story creation as well. So I have my um, uh, table inserted into the story. So the first thing I'm going to do is to have the plan version or the forecast version readily available to me. So I'm going to go into more and then go into the version management and then see the available version. Currently, there is only active version. So what I'm going to do, I will copy this to a private forecast version that I can use um, uh, to input the values. What I can do, I can say copy, or I can create a private version directly from here as a copy from category actuals. Sorry, as a fresh one. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the values from actuals and put it into my forecast version. So for that, I will be creating as a copy of the actual version. So I'm going to say forecast 2024 because my actuals in this trail version is only 2023, so I don't have any data for 2024. So I'm going to do some forecast data for 2024 in this version. So I'm going to copy all data and then keep the category of this to forecast. So my new version, forecast 2024, is going to be a forecast version of category. Say okay. A new private version is being created for me, and this is a copy of my actual. So this has all the 2023 data in it. I wanted to make sure my model has the data for time dimension for 2024 as well. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to see the unbooked values because there isn't any data for 2024. So I'm going to check that before I switch. I'm going to say save it so that I don't lose it. I'm going to put it in public, sales plan, stories, day 6 session. Also say disaggregation in manual planning. That's my topic. So I'm going to save that story with that name. My story has been created. I'll come back to it. I'm going to go to the model and see I have a time dimension data for 2024. Switch to the model from public, sales plan, models, then sessions. Okay, here I have my date dimension, and let me see the date. So I have the data for 2022, 24, and 5 as well. So which is good. I can go back to the story and then start creating the forecast based on 2024 months. Switch to the stories, actually files, and then go to the sales plan, stories, day 6 session, and disaggregation story. Okay, I will switch to edit. And I'm going to keep the time dimension in the columns. So currently the version is only in the columns. So I'm going to add a time dimension. At the same time, I'm going to filter my time dimension to just to keep only January 2024 instead of all the months of 2024. I would like to just keep only 2024 so that it gets more easy for me to input the values. To see the value of my actuals, I can bring in 2023 December month as well, but forecast will be for 2024. So for that, I'm going to select my table and get the filters. Actually, before I get the filters, I will add time dimension or the date dimension here. This is going to be my date. And then I don't need really the hierarchy. I just need um, the month only. So I'm going to filter that anyway. So I selected my date dimension, and so it is going to get me all the posted values for 2023 because that is where the data is. So I'm going to say I wanted to show unbooked values as well because the planning is going to happen for 2024 where there is no existing values available. So if I select it right now here, it is going to bring me 2024 and 25 as well onto the columns, which is not that I wanted to. I wanted to filter it first so that it gets limited data. So go to the filters, add date, range, and then I'm going to choose dynamic, and then I put the a variable or data input control so that I can choose the value dynamically. So I can say current forecast month. That is my input control or variable name. And then I give the granularity at the month. So this by default, I get 2024 John. That's the current value that I wanted to start with. Okay, and then say okay. In that range, I wanted to go back 1 month prior so that I can say look back 1 month. So this is going to get me a range of 2024 January and 2023 December. So let me select month, and then the month is January 2024, and then I look back 1 month. So you can see the selection area is 2 months. As I said, look back is only 1 month. Okay, and that's it. I will say okay. Now my data is filtered to just 2 months. They are December 2023 and January 2024. In order to show the unbooked values, I have to select unbooked data for date dimension. So I'm going to get 2023 and 2024 as well here. Okay, that's it. Really, I don't want to show this hierarchy structure here as I have only 2 months and I'm going to plan at the monthly level. I don't need this hierarchy roll up to be shown. So I can display flat. So go to the date dimension and say display option, hierarchy, and then say flat presentation. That just gives me the month data. Okay, when I selected that flat representation, I lose my date filter. So I usually it is more better, or the best practice is to have the columns here and then apply the filter. So but I just did this filters first and then columns later. So not a problem. I can go back to my add filters and then go to the date range and then add the system current forecast month variable and then switch to the granularity to month and then to look back 1 month value. So that's going to give me the filter on the months. So you can see only 2 months coming in here for both actual and forecast. So you can see December 2023 is copied from actual value. So there's no data for January actual. So that's why we're not going to bother about that. So the interesting part for us is to forecast on January 2024 with some input values in this particular selection. Since there are no many accounts here, I wanted to switch my scenario to have products um, into the rows. You can say remove the count dimension and then add the product dimension. So I'll get my products with the hierarchy. I'm going to expand this a little more so I can have 3 hierarchies and for the bike products. So I wanted to plan for the mountain category of the product. So what I'm going to do, I go to this cell and then start entering the inputs and it gets saved. So I can enter the value directly at the hierarchy node, or I can even go into the base members and then input the value for those products. So in the past, using BPC or IP, the standard or default disaggregation is not possible. Not very sure, but the time I was working, there wasn't any simple ways to disaggregate the values from the top node to the base members. There has to be a calculation or some way to do the disaggregation based on certain drivers. But in SAC planning, it made much simpler to do the disaggregation automatically. For example, if you're going to enter some values at the higher level, it is going to put the values in the base members automatically with the equal or proportionate option that as a driver selected. So we're going to look at, I'm not keeping the input at the cell level or the direct base member level, but instead I'm going to keep the input at the higher level. So this is what we discussed as the topic of the manual planning. So we're going to input the values. Or before getting the inputs, we if we wanted to change the values of the existing values, you can do plus and then 10% increase or multiply that with 10, we can do a lot more of those value changes. We will do that just after this input. So what I'm going to do first, I will input my value to have 15,000 at the mountain bike category and then say enter. So as soon as I put 15,000 and then say enter, you can see that it's been updated to all the base members of that particular mountain category. See, there are 10 products inside the mountain bike category, and then this has been equally distributed to all the 10 base members, $1,500 each. So that is how the disaggregation happens, even though you put the value at the node hierarchy node level. And you can disaggregate or distribute these values using planning panel. So you can invoke the planning panel from the cell that you're working, right click and say distribute value. It's going to navigate to a planning panel screen where you can see operation type distribute and redistribute overall among targets. So really at this time, what amount? 15,000 I'm distributing. And the recommendations are here that you can distribute to the same level, or you can distribute equally among all the product members one level below. This is what I'm doing. One level below all the product members I'm distributing. And then you can see that the distribution key is equally. So if you see equally, all the cells that have products getting equal amount of share, which is 1,500. Okay, and then isn't any apply here because there's no change to the existing cell content, because that's what we have done already. But you can also change this behavior to have proportionally or having input values directly. So in this input values, you will choose to have the redistribution based on certain values. Let's say you can put 2,000 for the first one, and then whatever the values you wanted to manually input, you can always do for for each cell that's under the mountain product. So planning panel allows you to make your inputs based on certain distribution keys, redistribute to the other members, and then you can append some values like the amount that you wanted to add. Let's say you already have 15,000 and you wanted to increase to 20,000 by adding 5,000, and you wanted to apply a different rule for that adding in a newly added amount for 5,000. You can do that by selecting append and then prepare the distribution key and the combination of the driver values for the newly added value as part of your redistribution of the planning scenario. So you can do the distribution and redistribution and allocate, or I wouldn't call allocate, but you can say disaggregate the total value to the uh, underneath cells in that hierarchy. Okay, and there is also another concept that I wanted to talk about here, default data entry mode. So you have three options, as I said: fluid, single data entry mode, and mass data entry mode. It's not really complex on this differentiation between of these three. Single data entry, whenever you select one cell and then the processor starts processing it. It's not going to wait for a certain action. Fluid data entry is going to give you some selection time, and then based on that, you can process the data. You can read that, process all new data changes at the same time if they are made in fast sequence. It's like a fast sequence. You enter 5 different values, and then on that fast sequence, if you're doing that in a very fast sequence, it is considered as one set of activities and process them. And Third one is mass data entry, where you explicitly enter into your mass data entry and then prepare the inputs and then explicitly click on submit to process that entry. So whatever the data entry mode you select, the processor is going to work accordingly. So I'm going to save it and then just sometimes the planning panel can take long time. So I'm going to just save it and then rerun it so that it can reprocess it. So in this way, you can input the value at higher node or hierarchy node, and then distribute that value to the lower levels of that node. And then even you can redistribute already planned value by either overwriting or appending using the planning panel that we just saw there. And there's another one that I missed here is that input weightage. The weightage. So for example, you already have certain data. Let me show you that. Edit and then planning panel, and then select the table. You already have select the dimension, select product. So and then I lost my previous state, so I'm just redoing it. I'm not going. It's not going to be helpful to redo it, but the way the planning. Let me go into distribute value, and there is another driver that value the option that I haven't shown you there. It is input weights. So if you select this input weights and choose the dimension or the time dimension that you wanted to reference to. So for example, you have previous month, December 2023, with certain value combination for all the products. And then you wanted to apply the similar product proportion or weightage to the newly forecasted value, you can choose input weights. So based on their weights, the values will be planned accordingly. But there is a prerequisite for this one, because all the members of that hierarchy need to be booked with some data. If you have some unbooked values, either one or two in that hierarchy, this input weights option is not going to work for you. So make sure you have weightage for all the products underneath that top node in order to apply this input weights driver or distribution key to do the for equal. It doesn't for equally and proportionally, it doesn't matter. It is going to do the disaggregation for all the members, whether they are booked or unbooked. So that's one note that I wanted to add. Think for this is good enough for you to understand the manual planning and start making the changes and then save it, and then it gets saved to your private version, and then you can publish that to your public version for the bigger use in the organization. That's all for this today's session. We will connect again in the new session with more insight into the data actions. Thank you. Bye for now.